If you see the video I did a year ago, I was celebrating a year of sober. And I celebrated my year in sober by getting plastered, by getting drunk and everything. And drugged up and all that stuff. And once again, I have a year sober, and I had really strong urges to drink and use and everything really, really bad. Coming up to my year, within a day before and during all through the day of my year sober, I just had horrible urges to drink and drug. I mean, But I guess I didn't talk about much difference of what I had happen during the year was that I had 2 years off of cancer. I've had cancer a good part of my life. And cancer was a main contributing factor in my compulsions to drink and drug. I mean, some of it, a good part of it, is a genetic disposition to alcohol, family upbringing. I was abused. I was raised in an alcoholic family. My adoptive father was a practicing alcoholic and drug addict and a doctor, and it was a big mess, and my mom was an alcoholic, and she sobered up before she died. I guess she was the one thing that saved me, was my mom. She was the only soundness that I had in the dysfunctional family that I was raised in, other than she was a drunk. But she sobered up 20 years before she passed away, and she quit smoking and everything, but cancer still got her. But I guess, I've been struggling with alcoholism since I was 5. I started drinking and drugging when I was 5. I started at a really early age, and my parents really didn't know about it. I was just taking what they were using, and then I was drinking and drugging to cope with it and all that stuff. But because of my drinking and drug use and all that, it probably caused me to get cancer. And then also via work, I was exposed to some things, agents and other things that we know that cause cancer, that gave me the cancer and all that. But fortunately, I stayed sober, and then that helped me. That made the chemo work. I mean, the chemo probably wouldn't have worked, or the chemo definitely would not have worked if I wouldn't have stayed sober. So I'm just really lucky to be alive. My first attempts at getting sober was back when I was 19. I was involved in, when Pablo Escobar was running the cartels and all that, I was involved in the trade to a certain extent, I guess. And then it's kind of a big, long mess, but I tried to get out of it, and then I had several attempts on my life, but they were, I was just in the wrong place, or the right place at the right time, and they weren't successful in trying to annihilate me. But anyway, so that got me started on wanting to get sober and clean and all that. It's a big, long frickin' story. But, so then I went to AA and NA and all that. And I guess, if it wasn't for Alcoholics Anonymous and Narcotics Anonymous, I wouldn't be alive right now at all. So I would have died many years ago. Suicide, someone trying to kill me, overdoses, other problems that go along with it. I've had esophageal varices, where you start bleeding when you vomit, and your esophagus just starts gushing blood out, and I almost bled to death, and luckily I made it to the hospital in time, and they stopped the bleeding, or I would have died from that. I've had countless overdoses. I haven't directly tried to commit suicide, but my drinking and drugging was, I always like to get just on the verge of where I'm so loaded that I'm almost dead. I mean, that's the level I wanted to get at when I got hammered. And I didn't want to go out and party or anything or socialize. I just wanted to go in a room and just get plastered and just lay there and just push it as far as I could, on the verge of death. And then One time I ended up on the floor for a week. I fell, I hit my head, my brain was hemorrhaging, my cell phone was dead, so I couldn't call emergency, and luckily my landlord opened up the door and he said, "Can you get up?" And I'm like, "No." And he goes, you've been on the floor about a week. I've seen your car there and you haven't been going to work." And he just called 911 right away. And the EMT said that was my last day on the planet. But that didn't stop me. I mean, I had complete loss of my right arm, and I had complete loss of my right arm for a year. And I didn't know if I was going to get it back. And fortunately, I got it back. So, but that didn't stop me. That didn't stop me. So a year ago I quit, and again out of the many times that I've quit. And I'm just really grateful to have a year. And I guess it's nice to be able to get a full night's sleep. I couldn't do that when I was drinking and drugging. It's nice to have clear thought patterns. It's nice to be able to remember things, remember phone numbers and things I know about people and stuff I did and stuff I want to do. It's nice to not be depressed all the time. Then a little over about a year and a half ago, I had cancer and liver cancer and everything, and my enzymes are so bad. It's how they tell your enzymes, your ALTs and your ESTs is shows, like if your liver's having damage, cellular damage, it leaks into your bloodstream, and they can tell by your liver enzymes how badly damaged your liver is and current damage that's going on in your liver. And my ALTs and my ASTs were, I don't know if you know this, but they were like up in the 300s. That's like liver failure. That's like liver transplant. That's like liver cancer. That's like, that's the end, is where I was at. And then a few months ago, I had the same tests done and all that stuff, and they're in the 18 through 20 range versus the 300 range, so they're back down to normal. So I'm really lucky, and I don't want to push my luck and play around with it anymore. So I really want to try to stay sober and continue to stay sober. But one thing is, it's different for everybody, And I messed up plenty of times. I screwed up. I've relapsed hundreds of times. And I've seen hundreds of people relapse hundreds of times. And the main thing is they quit going to meetings, or they quit trying to get sober. They just give up. And they die. And that's one thing I never did, was I never gave up. I just kept trying. If I got 3 months and I relapsed, I go back, and then I get 6 months and I get a year. And, I just kept trying. Stubborn, bullheaded, whatever. I kept trying, and it's been really, it hasn't been easy for me at all, so I'm really grateful to have a year and be alive, and every day is a gift. It's a freaking miracle. I've done drugs and alcohol more days of my life than I've not been on drugs and alcohol. Most of my life has been loaded and stoned. I mean, I'm surprised I have a brain cell left. I mean, and then I used to do hallucinogenics, acid, angel dust, PCP, whatever you call it. I knew a guy that used to make the stuff, so it was no problem. And sometimes when people take acid or homemade LSD or PCP or stuff like that, I mean, sometimes they take a trip and they never come back. I mean, they mentally lose it for life. I've met people like that. They're permanently disabled. They have baked their noodle. They're gone. And I'm really lucky that I turned out halfway sane. I mean, there is no normal in this world. There is no completely sane, but to an extent, I turned out okay. after going through all that. You know, and I can look back and have a bunch of self-pity, but I've done a lot of really cool stuff in my life that a lot of people have never done or never will do, so I don't necessarily regret the life that I've lived. You know, it is what it is. I got dealt a really bad karmic hand when the family I was born into or whatever. You know, I just was given a really nasty deck of cards. And a lot of people that went through what I went through never made it, or they committed suicide, or whatever took them out, you know. And so I'm just grateful to be alive. And I guess what I was going to get at, and then what I'll finish off with is everybody's path to sobriety or cleanliness is different. So don't let anybody tell you that you have to do it their fucking certain way, because it's bullshit. You know, you have to find a way that works for you. You know, and if it's therapy, you know, it's therapy. You know, if it's meetings, it's meetings. It's an individual deal, whatever works for you. I mean, therapy and studying that stuff did for me more than the meetings did, but the meetings did help. I mean, they were necessary, and I wouldn't be alive because of the meetings. But you know, I had to take a slightly different route. So don't you let anybody tell you that there's only one way to get sober, that there's only one wrench that you can use for a nut or whatever. You know, I mean, there's different paths, and you have to search within. To thy own self be true. And you have to decide what's going to work for you. Like it says on this is a 1-year chip. The lighting on it's not real great. But you can see, to thine own self be true. Unity, service, and recovery. I mean, that's the bottom line. You know, you got to be true to yourself. And whatever program that you work, if it works for you, then work that. And don't be all codependent and think you got to do what there's so much peer pressure to do stuff. You know, if I did things the way other people said that they're supposed to do them that works for them, and they told me to follow their way of getting sober, I'd be dead. I wouldn't be making this stupid video right now. So that's the main key, is you got to find out what works for you. You have to dig, and you have to be honest with yourself about what's going to work for you. And some things maybe you can't even tell other people, because you'll just get in an argument, just like a political argument you do with other people when you talk about politics or whatever. I mean, you have your disagreements and all that. And then this one here on the back is a good one, is grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, the courage to change the things I can, and the wisdom to know the difference. So I'm never going to be 20 years old again. You know, I'm probably not going to have another kid. I mean, whatever. You know, I mean, some things you just can't be able to change. Other people, circumstances, politicians, corrupt governments, whatever. Just have to kind of accept that. And then this is the NA one here. This is on my keychain. Yeah, I don't wear it on my neck or anything like that. Yeah, I'm really grateful to be sober. Grateful to Alcoholics Anonymous and Narcotics Anonymous. And I guess in a nutshell, what I do might not keep you sober, and what you do might not keep me sober. You know, there's different paths for everybody. So you have to decide what works for you. You have to get honest with yourself. So good luck with that, and I'll keep trying, keep on keeping on. Good luck. Over and out, Alki Holic.